From Washington, this is the Macrocast, a podcast brought to you by Penta and Markets Policy Partners.
Good morning. It's Friday, October 21st. You're listening to the Macrocast from the Penta Group and Markets Policy Partners. I'm Tony Fratto with Penta Group. We have John Fagan and Brennan Walsh from Markets Policy Partners. Guys, what a week for the UK. It's been 6 weeks of woe for them, culminating this week, or at least the latest chapter this week. There may be more chapters to come, given the way things are going. Liz Truss is out as prime minister. She failed to outlast the head of lettuce. By the way, this stunt with the head of lettuce, it's just ruined iceberg lettuce for me forever now.
We
go to a steakhouse ordering a wedge and not think of Liz Truss's face.
The image of the lettuce partying because of its victory yesterday morning was it had music going, a disco ball. It was enjoying some wine. It was, the Brits know how to Brits know how to wind someone up.
They do. They're good with that kind of humor. But honestly, it's going to be a long time before I can have a good wedge of iceberg lettuce. Now, they're searching for a replacement. We'll see who it is. I think October 28th is shaping up to be a big day. We're going to find both Twitter and the UK are going to have new leaders on that day. I don't know which one is more important at this point in time, but the Brits will be choosing from probably among Rishi Sunak, the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, who Liz Truss beat in the leadership election last time, Penny Mordaunt back in the running again. There's talk of Boris Johnson.
Well, yields literally just jumped in the UK, so they moved up because of the fears that Boris Johnson is coming back.
It's still just rumors at this point in time, right? Yeah. He's not actually. He hasn't left Elba yet.
No,
he's not mounted his return. He isn't marching north yet. And Ben Wallace, the defense secretary, has been mentioned. I'd be surprised if it unless Bojo enters. By the way, if Bojo enters, he's the prime minister, right? I mean, I don't think.
I think so. Yeah.
I think Congress. I think the conservatives, the Tories, whoever it is, they want a strong leader, and he'll be a strong conservative leader, whatever his popularity and whatever shenanigans he's likely to get up to when he come back. So to me, it's a question of whether he wants it. And it's hard to look. It's not a good job if you're a conservative PM right now. The basic facts are this: Brexit has put conservative prime ministers in a no-win situation, and they keep doing what happens to people in no-win situations, which is they lose. It has created really challenging problems. You then take the global economic churning that we've had because of COVID and energy and the war in Ukraine, and combined with Brexit, and it's just a really tough situation that they're in. And then with these crazy mini budgets of the Truss regime. John, how are things this morning as you look at the UK economy? It's not pretty, is it?
No, it's not. We got some retail sales numbers that looked pretty awful in the UK. Those were down more than expected, and we're talking about a year-on-year decline that is almost 7%, and that's in the face. Consumers are understandably just wilting in the face of sorry, back to the lettuce. I've got lettuce on the consumers are really suffering from the higher prices, particularly food, obviously. And now there was a sense that the Truss government would be able to take some of the pressure off with their plan to cap household energy prices. They were also extending that to some corporates for a briefer period of time. But that was expected to take some of the pressure off. But the layering tax cuts and the other mini budget accoutrements on top of it was just too much for the market to bear. And so now they have to be all else being equal, they're going to be more austere, and the Bank of England has to raise even further just to try to stabilize financial markets, because at the same time they're hiking rates, they're also on the hook for purchasing longer dated gilts, the sovereign bonds in the UK, in order to keep that market from spasming. It is, we've seen some very, whippy price action in yields, and it's emanating from the UK and sort of rebounding around the world, not as violently as we saw in the aftermath of the mini budget release. But this is a really challenging environment, and so the UK has put themselves in a worse position than they would have been otherwise. But it's hard to look at it and say it's totally isolated. The Treasury market has had some really bad trading days this week, and although Treasury Secretary Yellen was coming out talking about long-term reforms and liquidity issues that have been that aren't anything new in the Treasury market, there's a sense that that there's heightened attention on this given what we've seen overseas.
Yeah, it's hard to look at what they're going through right now. I mean, obviously the political turmoil, exacerbates it. It just obviously creates so much more uncertainty for them and market participants and companies and consumers. And you even have to think, even like pullback in retail sales. There'll probably be lots of sources to it, not least of which is uncertainty, right? Just like you don't even know what's going to happen. You don't know what the value of the pound is going to be. You don't know what's going to happen with these budgets. You don't know what happens with the energy price cap, and so you start hoarding your cash a little bit and not being a good economic actor out there. And then there's just the clear pain of higher prices that are restraining your purchasing power and affordability of a whole lot of things that you pull back on as well. So it's not great. It's hard to see what the easy outcome is for them. There is no easy outcome for them. I mean, they're going to be real stagflation right now. I guess they have some of the benefits of what we have not seen it we have not seen unemployment increases yet, but you have to think that's coming. If retail sales are continuing to take that big of a hit, you have to think unemployment's coming next, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a very grim outlook, and now the government, rather than a fiscally expansionary posture, they're going to be on the whole more contractionary, and they have to do that to shore up confidence. That's a classic EM motif, right? When your economy is suffering, you have to tighten as a central bank, and you have to tighten the belt as a fiscal policymaker in order to try to shore up your currency. It's a pro-cyclical to the downside for economic outcomes, unfortunately.
I do wonder though a little bit. Some of this, it could be. Look, there could be some messaging here too. I cannot believe that it would be like it's not great. I understand if you needed to sort of restore faith in bonds, and this is, by the way, this is a Hail Mary pass kind of things for them to achieve credibility, because they have done so much damage to their credibility over the last few years, and especially the last few weeks. However, if a new leader came in and said, look, we're not changing anything for 2 years, we're going to do the energy caps to protect most vulnerable consumers. We're going to continue with our negotiations with the EU to get to a smooth outcome and not a disruptive outcome there. We are going to, and we're not going to make any other changes. We're not, we're not going to add spending. We're not going to add tax cuts right now. What I'm promising you is stability for the next 18 to 24 months. We're not making changes. And because times are so uncertain, and I do think there's an opportunity for them, for whoever the next leader is, to come in and say, because you don't want retrenchment. Like I understand why your prescription is 100% correct, that you have to show some austerity in order to convince people. But we're not talking about Argentina. We are talking about the UK, as much as the embarrassing.
On that point, why does the UK matter? It's not a big economy anymore.
No, I know. I'm with you on that.
It matters in a market sense. I mean,
I know.
That's
the question I'm asking. Why does it matter so much?
Yeah, that's true. That's why it does matter.
It's because people are looking at the UK and then they have that sidelong glance back to the US and they see parallels and, potential spillovers and things that, we might do the same. We've got some political uncertainty coming up in the not too distant future. We're going to have, we've got midterm elections. We've got also, but anyway, when it comes to you may be right, Tony, that if they were to, talk about stability, we're going to go back to the, ex ante status quo policy. You were okay with it. And let's be okay with it now.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's not really up to them alone, because if the Fed comes out at its next meeting and says 75 and we're going hammer and tongs again, that's, it's sides to this issue. And we wouldn't have all of this stress in the UK if the Fed hadn't put, I think central banks around the world backs against the wall.
There's no question that Bank of England has to continue to tighten. I mean, I think that was a classic case, which we saw this during the financial crisis as well, when what was the name of the financial watchdog in the UK at that time? Their unified watchdog, the financial, I can't remember what it's called. They were sort of beating their chest. We had, some, bear and other things happening here. And they were saying how, like, on where we have this model of distributed regulatory authorities of our financial sector. And they said, yeah, that obviously that's an inferior way to regulate the financial sector. Our system is holding up so much better because we have this unified, and of course, the financial crisis spared no one, and their banks had as much trouble as American and other banks as well. But they had that moment of hubris. It seems like they had a little bit of, the Bank of England had a little bit of moment of hubris here too, in that they were early in raising rates, and they were early and measured. But they still got behind by definition, right? If they have this amount of inflation in the UK, they obviously have been behind the curve. But they went through that period of time where they were like, we saw it first, we raised first, we've been addressing it first, so we've been able to do it in a more measured way. And measured way isn't cutting it over there either. So they are going to have to address it. There's no question about that. I just mean some of the fiscal conniptions, like no more fiscal conniptions, right? No more. We're not going to come to you with big spending plans. We're not going to come to you with big tax cut plans. We're going to focus on our peas and carrots. We're going to eat our vegetables and deal with our EU discussion. We're going to deal with vulnerable people, with dealing with energy prices, and that's it. And that's the most important thing. We have to deal with. I heard someone say. So I saw someone use a line, which I really liked, and said that we have to deal with the alligators closest to the boat, right? That's what they need to, right? That's what they need to do. Don't go deal with other alligators. You need to deal with the alligators that are closest to the boat right now, and if they tell, I think if you get a new PM in, and he has the courage to tell, Conservative Party members that this is the plan, this is how we're going to get stability, and this is how we're going to show it, and this is what we have to do, and then they elect him or her, I think there's a chance there.
There's the chance goes up if the Fed in its next meeting, in the November meeting, comes out and says, we're raising 75 basis points, but we've got a much more balanced formulation going forward. We're not done with the inflation fight. No, we're still fighting it. But, we've obviously seen some progress on that front. Admit that you've made some progress on the inflation front, please. I mean, everybody sees it. And then there's just a nod to overseas, spillover effects and sensitivities toward that. We're getting a glimmer of that finally in some Fed speak from, Chicago Fed President Evans and some others. But it really has to feature more prominently. If they pull a September meeting in November with the dollar, already at new 20-year highs, and bond markets around the world really having a lot of heart palpitations here.
Did you short the yen? Did you short the yen John?
I'm structurally short the end. Maybe I'm not sure. Gotta check my accounts.
I mean, 150. I mean, I remember 160. My memory doesn't go back before 160, but it was.
Yeah, we're talking 80s if you go back that far.
Yeah.
So. I mean, they've got a meeting. So they've got a meeting on the 28th as well. So that's another the Bank of Japan. So that, and the intervention watch and the yen is still weakening past 150, which is very psychologically important. And the 10-year, which is in that 25 basis point corridor through yield curve control on the other side of zero, it's crept above that. And this is definitely a testing moment for financial markets. At this moment, there was this morning there's a Wall Street Journal report that the Fed is going to do 75, but is then looking how to figure out
how to do 50,
how to message lower,
a
lower trajectory there. That is helpful. That's the kind of thing that we need to begin to hear.
I'm not convinced they will, but I've been wrong with them sometimes in the past on some of their messaging. I have a feeling that they're still going to come with the hard message and not even hint towards, or at least not from the Fed board, hint towards any kind of pivot before the following meeting. Except, allow, not allow. These guys are all independent actors, but regional presidents will go out and talk a little bit about the effectiveness of the policy to that point and create headroom for them to go to 50. But I don't think the governor, the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, is going to do that. But we'll see. I do think they feel like they need to not just smash inflation; they need to smash it, cut off the head, and burn it.
But you can't kill inflation without killing markets first. I mean, that's the problem. And now we're getting into a position where Treasury market, it's looking increasingly panicky. I mean, we're up at 2007, 2008 levels and spiking this week. So
what did you think? I mean, asking this question honestly, I don't know the answer to this. I don't even have a good guess on it. That if you talk to the Fed 2 months ago, and I don't even mean a terminal rate, because I don't think a terminal rate, I don't even care about a terminal rate. But if you were talking to the Fed 2 months ago or 3 months ago and said, look, you guys are going to aggressively raise rates, where do you think the 10-year will be in October? Would they have wanted to see 4.2? Or would they have said, we don't think we can get to 4.2?
Yeah, I think that they've been just a moving target on this. We look at the difference between the July meeting and the September meeting. I mean, you're in two different worlds. The July meeting was a much more balanced meeting, and you had between the July meeting and the September meeting, it's hard to say that you didn't see any progress on inflation and or some more signs of deterioration. And so I think that there's just been. This is a really hard time to make monetary policy. So you don't want to be too much of a Monday morning quarterback, but they've been all over the road here and in a relatively short period of time. And it's hard to necessarily justify swerves like that from the data, at least based on the way that market participants are seeing it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the answer to my question. I mean, I think they would have been, that as a range of a target that included something above 4 was probably what they would want to see to have enough impact to take away animal spirits right now, right? They have been trying to tame animal spirits. They have been trying to tame the housing market. They have been trying to tame auto sales. They have done all of these things. And it's hard to imagine that they would have thought that those things could have been accomplished without the 10-year above 4.
I think that's probably right. I would agree with that.
I agree. Yeah. But I mean, you have the housing market in basically depression. You have auto sales, used car prices are down the most they've ever been on a month-to-month basis. So they are making progress on the
There's no question
front, but they're not talking about it.
They refuse to say it. Every time they open their mouths about inflation, they say it's getting worse. Look what Kashkari said this week. Oh, it's even worse than before, 5%. It's always this, and market participants just aren't seeing that. And
because market participants are looking at the actual real-time data rather than the CPI now is a very backward-looking and kind of wonky measurement of what's really going on.
Yeah. What do you think it will take? What do you think they need to see? Like, is it?
I think it's the market. And as John said, I think the treasury market is breaking enough that I think they're finally getting the message.
I totally agree with Brendan. I think that, they have been basically trying to calibrate, what is the terminal rate? What is that level that they can get away with? And, markets are one. They obviously have their models and that sort of thing, but markets are another gauge, which is, if we turn the dial up far enough and see where the threshold of real systemic pain is, well, I mean, it's pretty clear that it's right around here.
What's the next jobs day?
It's in 2 weeks.
Yeah. 2 weeks. Yeah. And next week, we've got a ton of economic data. We've got the Fed's preferred, or at least they used to prefer it. They don't talk about it. It's the core
price index.
Core PC price index. I mean, now they just inflation is a monolithic, any inflation data point, whether it's University of Michigan survey or core PC prices or CPI or PP, it's all, it's fair game. The Fed has allowed markets to overreact to any and all of these. And so, we'll see. Core PCE prices may surprise on the upside, but it just takes, nobody gets excited about one, positive surprise, because one negative surprise is enough to just blow it all away, because the Fed is cherry picking to justify their approach.
Yeah. And we also get the global PMIs, which have been fairly dismal as of.
They have been, and those all right. Those should be, there should be good signals. I mean, they look. I joked earlier in the week that it's really, really hard to get people to understand just how long the policy lags are on some of this stuff. But it's clear that we are seeing some pretty quick, immediate impact, but not. It might be a while before we see actual data in aggregate numbers in a substantial way that signals to them that they can even slow down the rate increases, right? And that's the fact. And if they're saying, I know what you're saying, John, but if those PPI numbers are not great, or if wage numbers in the next jobs, or if jobs are at 250 to 300,000, it's hard. 75 is the next number, period. And
November is done. It's 75. It's fully priced in. December is the question. I think one of the best quotes I heard out of the World Bank and IMF meetings was, when you walk into fog, you should walk slowly. And I think that's the message that the Fed should be taking. It's perfect. We should still be raising it, but you don't have to do it at a breakneck speed. You've already done that, and
I think that's
we're
fair.
Seeing the effects of that, especially in the housing market.
I think that's fair. I think they've to go from a place where we never did a 75 point basis increase. We've done cuts at that,
right? Yeah,
we never did increases at that speed before. Now they've they feel commonplace, even priced in, and we know, if they do what John suggested, if John suggested that they leave the impression that they may only raise 50 in the next meeting, there'll be a big old relief rally.
Oh, totally.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that I think is, the question is, they're already beginning to shift their messaging to 2023. And so we've been, personally, I've been a little surprised that they've taken this 75 basis point, extreme hawkishness so far, even in the face of Credit Suisse swap lines these are real issues around the world here. And the Fed has put its blinders on and just gone as hard as they can. But, they can't do that forever. And then you get to a point where, the whether it's emerging markets or whether it's there's got to be an endpoint in there somewhere. But they've already begun to message about how they're not going to cut in 2023, and the futures markets are having them cutting like a decent amount over the next 2 years. And if they're this stubborn on the upside, think about how stubborn they're going to be for cutting rates. I mean, the at least the way that all of the messaging is like, obviously Powell is going as Paul Volcker for Halloween this year, right? I mean, he is like masquerading as Paul Volcker, and all the messages from the cognoscenti on the monetary policy side are all like, Paul Volcker proved that easing too early is the biggest sin, and if that is hardwired into the Fed's decision making, the next year is going to be a really, really tough year.
I don't think there's any question about that. I think it's I don't know if there's been a more sustained difficult environment for executing monetary policy. It's really, really complex, and I don't I tend to agree with you. I would love to see them. I would love to see them be able to back off, but I would love for them to do it with a little bit of a little bit more evidence, that the kind of evidence that they've pointed to back up that that sentiment for their own credibility.
No, I'm with you. They've kind of painted themselves in the corner with focusing so much on the CPI, and also I think they're scared of Larry Summers. So they
who isn't?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I wouldn't want that guy breathing down my neck.
No, yeah, he's scary. But they're ignoring data that they can use to justify what they actually want to do, but they're worried about their credibility. But by doing that, the market is now questioning their credibility, that they're asleep at the wheel and they're not paying attention to actually what's going on in the world.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we'll keep an eye on them. I know we wanted to spend a little bit of time on IMF, World Bank, but I think why don't we look, maybe next show we'll do a little bit of global stuff because we're running out of time. But you started to talk about the data we have next week. What's the full compendium we have ahead of us?
We have a lot of central banks next week. The Bank of Japan. We have the ECB. Who else? Bank of Canada also. And then, as we said, they have the global PMIs. So that'll be interesting. And also, we get the first print of the third quarter U.S. GDP.
We get Amazon earnings as well.
Yeah. So what's going on the earnings side?
Yeah, real quick on the earnings front. What all have you seen?
It's been a mixed bag so far. I think it's fair to say that the mega banks came out early. They started late last week, and the first set of reports was actually relatively encouraging, based on essentially with Morgan Stanley as the outlier, but everybody else was beating on both counts and was guiding with a relatively balanced outlook. There was some grim discussion, and obviously Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, is very cautious, still in batten down the hatches mode. But his line is always, the outlook is tough, but we're prepared, and things are still good for our customers. We saw some relatively upbeat stuff from Bank of America about the retail customers. Wells Fargo did well, so it's kind of like the storm on the horizon, I think, is what a lot of the banks said.
And as a bank, you have to, say, oh, we're worried about it. But the actual numbers, they're not seeing a huge increase in defaults. And the banks are actually kind of crushing it because rates have moved up. So their lending rates have massively increaced, but their borrowing rates have not changed at all. You're still getting the same zero on your checking account and savings account.
Yeah, one of the most downbeat ones that we've had is Snap. So I have I fully admit I don't use Snapchat. I have no idea even really what it is, but it has become this kind of like bellwether for the tech. Maybe it reports before everybody else or something, but it seems to come out and really call the tune because it's its trends in advertising play out to a lesser degree for Facebook and Google. Yeah. And so if Snap is down 30%, like it is in pre-market trading, then Facebook's down like 4%, Google's down 2%. But it's that like advertiser spend, and those guys are sort of the canary in the coal mine.
Well, yeah, it was a demolition, wasn't it? I mean, even the irony is they beat on all of their numbers, but their outlook on revenue was low, and for that mixed report. Last I saw, I didn't see what they're trading at right now. They're open, but they were in pre-market. They were down 30%.
And that's after losing almost 80% of their value year to date.
Yeah,
right.
It hasn't been a good year.
Crushing. Yeah. Well, more to look forward to next week, guys. Great show. We'll look forward to. Maybe we'll have some handicap odds on the next PM by this time next week.
Yeah.
All right. Have a great weekend.
Penta is the world's first comprehensive stakeholder solutions firm. We are a one-stop shop for the intelligence and strategy leaders need to assess a company's reputation and make decisions that improve their positioning. As executives in the C-suite must account for a growing set of engaged stakeholders, all with distinct, fast-changing demands, Penta provides real-time intelligence and strategy solutions. We work with clients solving complex global challenges across a variety of industries. Our clients span technology, financial services, energy, healthcare, and more. To learn more about how Penta can support your company, check out our website at pentagroup.co, our Twitter at pentagrp, or find us on LinkedIn at Penta Group. Thank you for listening to the Macrocast. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and share.